What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, February 14th, 2024, a Valentine's episode of From Half Court. And what gets you in the mood for Valentine's Day more than listening to the voice of that beautiful bastard, Jeff Iafrady? Jeff, Mr. Hollywood himself, Mr. Crunch Time in the building. How are you doing today, my friend? Happy Valentine's Day.
Hey, happy Valentine's Day, fellas. Hey, you know what? I'm blessed to be here. I'm on From Half Court with the fellas. I know I don't have the green screen. You know what? I went from, in my mansion to the alleyway, and now I don't have a green screen. So, life's great right now. I'm excited. It's post-trade
It's
deadline.
just nice to see you out of the alleyway and that you have some shelter,
Yeah, that's what matters. So I'm out of the alleyway. Pistons made trades. Cool, quieter in Italian. He played pretty well, so I'm locked in. I'm ready to get this going, guys.
That Italian might be a stallion, Jeff. We're gonna talk about that guy in a few minutes. But another guy we're gonna be talking with is that Marquette Heat coming from that seat, the beautiful man from Indiana, Troy Sergey. Troy, how's it going, man?
Going good, Sean. Last week was Christmas because of the NBA trade deadline. And this weekend is Christmas because I have tickets to see the All-Star practice on Saturday morning.
Can you also talk about the other event that you're going to at All-Star weekend?
I'm also going to be one of the celebrities representing From Half Court at the NBA Celebrity Game. Not playing, but repping From Half Court.
I still can't believe you're going to the Celebrity All-Star Game. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah, I love that.
Bastard, Troy. You lucky bastard.
Uh-huh.
Well, Sean would say the unlucky one because he thinks the quality of basketball is going to be too poor to even watch. So,
well, if you weren't going to that, I was going to see if you wanted to get tickets and go to the rookie showcase game. But have fun watching like Spike Lee and Gilbert Gottfried do a 3-point competition. Wait, Gilbert Gottfried's dead. That's kind of tragic. This is From Half Court. Every week we talk all things NBA basketball, Pistons basketball, anything that your heart desires. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that mother notification bell so you're not missing any of the content coming from the channel. But also be sure you're following my guys on social media so you don't miss anything that they're doing, including Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. You can catch my guy Jeff on Crunch Time with Jeff Iafrady and Booner. Follow them on social media, subscribe to their YouTube, and check out their content. It is fantastic. You can also follow Jeff on Twitter X at Jeff Iafrady. And you can follow Troy on X at Troy Sergey 44. But with that, guys, I know the trade deadline is the prime topic of conversation. It's the number one thing, on the mind because that's the biggest thing that's happened since the last time, we have spoken. But I came across this stat on Twitter today before this podcast. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that I wanted to lead the podcast with it. This is from Kevin O'Connor. And this is the top 10 isolation scorers in the NBA. So the way that this is ranked is by points per isolation. And he essentially figured this out using a service called Synergy Basketball. This is top 10 ISO scorers. Number 1, Kawhi Leonard. Number 2, DeJounte Murray. 3rd is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Number 4 is Stephen Curry. Number 5 in the NBA in isolation scoring, Jaden Ivey. That puts him above players in this list such as Tyrese Halliburton, Nikola Jokic, James Harden, Luka Doncic, and Jalen Williams. I know we talked a little bit last week about how Jaden Ivey's like starting to blossom and how he's starting to look really good. I'm starting to think that Jaden Ivey's legitimately turning into a star in front of our eyes. And I mean, if that's not good enough, I know we looked at the stats, from January 1st on last time in the pod, just to give you guys an updated version of where that's at, almost a 20-game sample size now. Actually is a 20-game sample size. 19.5 points, 4.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds. And on top of that, he's shooting 47% from the field and 43% from 3.
That's what we like.
Mm-hmm. He looks like guys. I mean, I said this. I tweeted this during the Clippers game or one of the games last week. I forget which one. I talked like it looks like he's turning into prime Russell Westbrook in front of our eyes.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is something we've talked about too. Just pre-trade deadline, if you're going to bank on this Pistons team taking significant steps, you're relying on a guy like Ivey to turn into a star/superstar. And now, without Cade in the lineup, and now he's back, but before coming off of injury, when he dealt with an injury, and now with him starting, like finally being unleashed, you're seeing like a second-year true Ivey rather than coming off the bench. Like he's in a good spot right now, and he's playing great. So to be up there with guys like Russell, we talked about it, Russell Westbrook, Donovan Mitchell giving him praise, and now he's starting to trend in that type of direction to where he's a star, a certified star in the NBA. Like now you got a good problem on your hands. You got two guys that, I mean, Cade's already putting up all-star numbers, and I know he's taking time to get back, but if Ivey can turn into that next 20-point per game guy with Cade in the lineup, like you're seeing it now. They're trusting Ivey, and it's paying off. The dude's a stud. He truly is.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, with the way that, Jaden Ivey's been playing, it's almost opening the conversation of, could Jaden Ivey even be the Pistons' best prospect? Which the fact that that's even a conversation, Troy, just says a lot about the surge of play that he's had over the last couple of weeks, because it's been different levels.
Right, and both sides of the court. And that's something that we've been saying about
Yep.
wanting to see from Jaden Ivey from the summer, from the beginning of the season now till now, is that we need this guy to play good basketball on both sides, and he is doing well. And the scoring has impressed me because of the efficiency with the scoring. Right, I mean how. That stat, I guess, proved it with the one-on-one matchup, the ISO scoring of the guy is a scorer, and I don't think, at least I didn't realize how much of a scorer he really is. I mean, we knew he was a shoot first guard, a score first guard coming into the draft even, but how he's made this leap, even this leap in the past month, like you mentioned, those stats, 19 points a game, over 4 boards, over 4 assists. I mean, that is really high caliber basketball for a guy who's in his second year. And, something we've talked about in the beginning of the year and up until now too, is, we have this core of especially Cade and Duren kind of as that 1-2 punch. I don't want to rank these guys so early on because I don't think it's fair to any of them, but my goodness, Ivey could be more important to our core than we realized. He could be a more important piece for this franchise moving forward than we realized. That says a lot because we knew he was special, but I'll be honest, guys, I didn't know that he could be this special in year two.
He's showing all NBA potential.
Correct. And I don't know if I would have said that in this summer.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially too, like, and I think the thing that perhaps makes it, the most impressive, I know the way that the beginning of the season went is something that, has perhaps been, like one of the most heavily discussed and like heavily criticized parts of Monty Williams' tenure in Detroit thus far. But on the other hand, Monty Williams, you got to give like a tip on the cap in the sense of he's been coaching Jaden Ivey hard, and clearly he's been getting a lot out of him over the last couple of months. And on Jaden Ivey's end, for him to not only receive that coaching, but to like overcome the adversity of that, because that was the type of thing that could potentially derail a player's career. Like those are things that we've seen like mess up prospects before, is when you get with a wrong coach, just how much that can change your trajectory. So the fact that like not only is he, like coming off the heels of that and playing well, but playing the best basketball of his career, to me gives me a lot of like optimism of what his trajectory looks like.
Yeah, because again, if players were regressing, they'd point to the head coach. So when players are progressing, you can't just say, well, it's just the player getting better. Like the coach is. So you can't have it both ways. So to your point, yes, Monty deserves credit. I am still, it does leave a bad taste in my mouth. I'm a little bit sour about how it started, because and Monty, again, we can have this discussion another time as well, just about how, at least for me, and I think you guys would agree here with Monty, he's the type of guy that typically you'd bring in when you have an established roster. Ideally, he's in a tough situation for him. At least it's probably one of the toughest challenges, if not the toughest, his entire coaching career. So for him, to get to this point where Ivey's developing and he's looking great. Yeah, credit to Monty and the rest of the coaching staff. I'll even say this, like, I think Ivey has the highest ceiling on this entire basketball team. I think that's true. It doesn't have a slight at Cade. I think Cade
Not at all.
is already putting up all-star numbers, and I think Cade's a terrific player. But when you talk about ceiling, when you talk about athleticism, that's all God-given. That's not something you can teach. The athleticism, the burst, the size, length, what he can do on defense, like, I think for Ivey in his next step, and you mentioned it, Troy, about him being more of a two-way player, that was the last thing for me. Like, he has all the physical tools. If he could just put it all together, he could be one of the best two-way players in the league. I mean, how explosive he is. So, yeah, I'll give Monty credit. But at the same time, it stinks that you couldn't have seen this progression earlier. Maybe that's an indictment on Ivey. Who knows? But for me, if you're gonna win, not even 10 games through February, I'd like to have the guys starting in the lineup. That's how I've always felt. So maybe I'm just stubborn that way.
Yeah, no, and listen, that's totally fair criticism. I think the biggest thing though is, when you do make those types of mistakes, and you're like, and we're going to talk about that a little more with like Troy Weaver, in a little bit as well. But like, when you make the mistake, it's about, are you able to admit that you make the mistake and move forward and rectify that mistake? And that's like ultimately, like what you have to do. A lot of times, obviously in sports, you don't want to give people the time and the patience and the opportunity when you're failing, especially when the Pistons were failing, at historic proportions at the beginning of the season. But I mean, they're 5-8 in their last 13, like since December, like when they made the trade, like for Marvin Bagley, like it has been like a significantly different team. And I know that, obviously, one of the things that, Jeff made an appearance on, Justin Spiro's, show. It was a really good listen. Go check it out. There's a lot of things, detailing like Jeff's time at Woodward and, like leaving, like the morning show and things like that. It's a great listen. But one of the segments I couldn't help but listen to was your thoughts on the Pistons trade deadline. And, obviously I think your sentiment was something that was kind of shared by a lot of fans, where it's like, okay, they made a lot of change, but what's the plan? Like, we're just bringing in like on the surface, it just looks like you're bringing in a ton of guys. You lose Bojan and Burks. You don't necessarily get that first round pick that you envisioned getting for a guy like Bojan. But to me, like the thing that like stands out the most when you look at like where the Pistons like have gotten better, like from pre-trade to post-trade. So let me just share my screen real quick. This is from James Edwards III of The Athletic. So this is at the beginning of the season when he projected the Pistons depth chart and what it looked like. And from the beginning of the season on, like it was pretty clear that the construction of this roster was flawed, right? That it was deprived of wings. There were some guys that can shoot, but not a ton. Overall, like you're relying on a lot of guys to really take some significant leaps and contribute pretty significantly, right? Well, post-trade deadline, here's what that depth chart looks like. And as you can see, the first thing that stands out is just how much more balanced it is. Just how much more it opens up like for opportunities for guys like Asar to play, how much more defensive potential this lineup has. But on top of that, you have shooting from from top to bottom. And you look at the way they played defensively against the Clippers, albeit I know it's one game, but to hold James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Russell Westbrook to under 50 points and a half in your first game together is not insignificant to me. And so, there's a lot to like. Was it a perfect deadline? No. But I mean, to me, from watching this first game, this is the first time this season where I'm like, oh, the Pistons have a roster that can compete every night. And I didn't feel that way a week ago.
Right. And to bring in a guy, and we'll talk about him, like Fontecchio, who can shoot the lights out, who can play good on-ball and off-ball defense as well. I think just that coming out game, his first game right against the Clippers on Sunday afternoon. Was that Saturday afternoon? Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, Saturday, yep.
That was a great opportunity to say, hey, look, we have a wing, right? He may not be a star or an all-NBA player, but listen, he wants to play competitive basketball. And I feel like we sound like a broken record at this point with last year, the year before that, but we just want to see competitive basketball by these younger guys. We want Troy Weaver to produce, and then Coach Williams to put on the court guys who want to play competitive basketball against all 29 of the rest of the teams in the league. And I think Fontecchio does a good job at that because he plays both sides of the court. So
100%. Jeff, obviously only one game, but I'm not sure how much you were able to watch, but what were some of your impressions, from what you saw? Are you intrigued? Like the other thing as well is we still haven't even been able to see guys like Quentin Grimes yet. Troy Brown Jr. I thought played really well. I don't know how Evan Fournier fits into our rotation, but he's on the roster the rest of the season. So definitely a lot of options for Detroit to work with. What are your impressions, Jeff?
Well, I'll start with this. The more I thought about it, and I watched the game on Saturday, and then we haven't gotten a chance to see Quentin Grimes, which I actually like a lot. I like Quentin. I think defensively he definitely helps. But the interesting thing, you trade away Bojan and Alec Burks, and although the return wasn't what I initially expected, and I think most Pistons fans expected, just look at the players, right? You get rid of Bojan. You get younger. You get a younger wing who's better defensively in Simone Fontecchio, and he can shoot the ball. And then you trade away Alec Burks, and you get younger, better defensively in Quentin Grimes. So that's kind of how I looked at it too. Like you're replacing older players with younger guys. That again, offensively, though, obviously Bojan's a better player, but I think Simone, like Troy kind of hit on it, what he brings, like the shooting, the versatility, and you kind of mentioned it with James Edwards in his article, their lack at just wing depth. So he helps out definitely. Although, we didn't like the return. I like the players a lot. Like I'm excited to see Grimes. I know him and Sasser played together at Houston. So they have camaraderie there. And I think Grimes coming off the bench, definitely with his shooting and his ability to play defense. I think those two help. They do. And they get younger, and you have a chance. And they're most likely, I think the plan is for certain to re-sign Simone because is he restricted? I believe he is.
Yep. So he's a restricted free. He's a restricted free agent. I imagine he's going to have a decent market, but I mean, Detroit's going to be able to match whatever offers come out of the table.
And I certainly think they will. So you get some long-term pieces, a part of your already young core. And again, he's 28 years old, but still, like he's got a ton of good years left in him. So I like the acquisition. I think Simone, funny enough, he's 28, but I think he's only going to get better. Like he's going to be a guy, especially with this roster, he'll get more opportunities with the playmakers they have with Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham. Like he's going to thrive with this team, I think. So I'm a fan of the players. I'm a fan of the players. Maybe not the return draft.
Our playmakers of Cade and Ivey. I mean, what guy in the league, even if he is 28, wouldn't want to play with those guys? I mean, young guys, young talent attracts players and gets the best out of players, right? And I think we can get the best out of Fontecchio with two playmakers on our team. So good job for bringing that up, Jeff.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I mean, the fact that you got a player, who seemingly can play the way that he does, and all you had to give up was Kevin Knox and a future second round pick, and even though like that second round pick for this year's class is, early in the 30s and can kind of be viewed as a little bit more of a, like a higher, like draft pick. But on the other hand, I don't know if you're going to get anyone available at that spot that's going to be able to contribute, to what Fontecchio has been doing. And again, just one game, but the things that he brings, like, he's not Bojan, obviously, but he can definitely defend better than Bojan. He can definitely cut to the basket better than Bojan. And I think he fits the Pistons better than Bojan. So that's just the way it is. But another thing that happened at the deadline, and perhaps the most interesting development since we last were able to all record together, Killian Hayes, the ultimate thing that went down there. We kind of had a feeling that he was not going to be on the team by the time we did this podcast next, but I think the expectation amongst all of us was he was going to, be traded, that there was going to be some form of return. Well, not only did that not be the case, but Killian Hayes was actually waived on deadline day. The Pistons were a little bit over when it came to members of the roster, and the Pistons seemingly were satisfied with what they had seen from the Killian Hayes experience, and said they wanted to move forward. And obviously there's still a decent amount of time left this season for for Killian to potentially sign with a team. However, I do find it interesting that it's already been like a week or almost like, like almost a week, and there hasn't been a murmur of a potential team for Killian Hayes. What were your guys' reactions when you saw that the news that he was officially waived? And do you think this could be it for Killian in the NBA?
Well, we kind of saw this coming, right, with the agent the week before. So we knew he probably wasn't going to be on the team after the deadline, after last Thursday. And yes, he was not on the team after Thursday afternoon. And I guess for me, Sean, I was a bit surprised that my theory of a Dallas team or someone picking him up just for the absolute bare minimum, maybe even a 10-day contract, just to see what kind of production he can do on the defensive side for 6, 7, 8 minutes a night. But that scenario obviously did not come true. But another scenario that we talked about before was, what about a Memphis team who just needs bodies on the floor really for the rest of the season? What about a San Antonio team who's even more of in a rebuild than we are, right? To have guys that can just compete with Wimby and be on the court and learn from Pop, and just maybe even just for a couple of weeks to close the season out. But no, not a call from them. And Sean, I'm quoting you on this one. If Killian was going to get signed, he probably would have gotten signed by now, which then raises some serious question marks with his future in the NBA. So.
Yeah, I'm not. I guess in a way, if you've been reading, anything you read on social media, you would be shocked that they didn't get a return back. But I think all Pistons fans should not be surprised by this. And
Right.
I am a little surprised that no teams given him an opportunity. I'm talking about a team that's right around where the Pistons are. Like, hey, let's take a flyer on him and see if a change of scenery can help him. But that ultimately kind of tells you, without telling you, how the league views Killian Hayes. I think for him, his best option would be to go overseas. Have complete offensive freedom and control to go out there, try things, be confident, gain your confidence back. There's been guys that didn't work out in the NBA, went overseas and came back later in their careers back to the NBA and worked their way back. Like, maybe Killian can do that. Because defensively, I mean, we went through this 1,000 times, but the playmaking and what he can do defensively is certainly, it's attractive. But offensively, like, you're not going to get the breathing room to go work on that right now in the NBA. You're going to have to go overseas and just put up drastic numbers. So, it's unfortunate. I think, for me at least, as a Pistons fan at heart, I still have a Killian Hayes jersey in my closet. Should have sold high his rookie here, but I didn't. So it's rotting away in the closet. But regardless, I think he'll ultimately play for a team. I just don't think it'll be in the NBA.
Yeah, I still wouldn't be surprised if at some point this season he could perhaps get signed to something. But again, it's one of those situations where obviously you wish it could have worked out. But again, with Killian, the thing was never a lack of opportunity. The thing was never a lack of touches. I think he had an ample amount of opportunity in Detroit. And I mean, listen, when you have guys who are coming in and producing right away, and like significantly better in those areas than you are, like Marcus Sasser came in and was like already better than Killian like day one. Like it didn't take long, right? So
Well, and I want to add this too, just because you sparked it for me. Monte Morris being traded, Killian Hayes being waived, clearing up some space in that point guard rotation. They want Sasser. They want to unleash Sasser a little bit, and it excites me
yep.
because I love Marcus Sasser, and I think that dude. And we spoke on it last week how he already's better than Killian. Give him more runway. Like, I'm excited for what they can. Now you don't have a Monte Morris, a Killian Hayes. You don't have a clutter in your backcourt. Like, now you got some guys that are 3-and-D guys, and now you got Marcus Sasser. So unleash the man.
And Sasser's leaps, even this season, he's made as a rookie on the scoring end. I mean, guys, it's only going to get better next year for year two. I mean, Sasser's ceiling, I don't know what it is, but I think he is a very underrated piece with this
Yep.
team moving forward.
100%. Marcus Sasser in his last 10 games, over 11 points a game, 20 minutes a game, shooting 53% from the field, 47% from three. The dude's a sniper. Just a
And
straight up sniper. And the energy that he brings, and you talk about like Quentin Grimes, like how like they're boys. Those guys went to the Final Four together. And like the fact that those guys are now, gonna have that chemistry, be able to come off the bench together and potentially, really kind of like be the heads of that second unit, together. I'm intrigued to see, like if that chemistry can make them a threatening backcourt, for the second unit. I'm excited to see what that looks like. And like the Critton Grimes, I'm not sure what to expect like offensively, but at the very minimum, I know the dude's a hound on the defensive side of the ball and can shoot the three pretty well. So yeah, I definitely think there's a lot more reason to be intrigued with what things look like down the stretch. Another thing as well, I know there's been a lot of talk of like, can Cade and Ivy coexist? Can those guys play together? I feel like overwhelmingly the answer is yes. If you've been tuning in over the last couple of weeks, obviously it's, still like a difficult, thing to gauge because there still hasn't been a ton of time together. But are you guys like starting to get more confident in that Cade and Ivy pairing? And what do you want to see from them the rest of this season?
so I want it to work, and you're seeing it work. I think the point I made too on Spiro's show is like they just haven't gotten a sample size to really say whether it will or not. Now, you don't want the Pistons to get ideally, because again, you drafted these guys, so you want them to turn into stars and be able to play together. You don't want to get to a point where it's like the Kings, where you have to trade one of these guys for an already established all-star. You'd hope that they can both grow into all-stars and play together and thrive together, which ideally, I think, and I said that we've all kind of said this and agreed on it. I think their skill sets can work together. I do believe that. We haven't gotten the sample size, and hopefully for the rest of the season you could see that. I would like to see, and you're seeing it now with Ivy over the last couple of weeks, especially when Cade was out, but now that he's back, they're adjusting with, those guys kind of taking turns. Like if that can become just a norm where, okay, Ivy, if it's Ivy taking up the ball and he's running the offense, Cade can work off of him, vice versa. And if you see Ivy shooting the hell out of the ball, by the way, which like that in its own right makes this thing work. And certainly it's on those guys, him and Cade, to be better 3-point shooters.
He was on a streak of 12 in a row, by the way. Like he was like quite literally was on
Portland?
one of the longest streaks in NBA history.
He had that game, but it was 7 for 7 in Portland. I'm like, dude, who is this? Like the last couple of weeks, he's been playing really well. So I have more confidence it will work. But again, you have the rest of the season to figure that out. Hopefully, all you really can ask for is for Cade and Ivy too. I'll give him some of this too. Just stay on the court. And I think for Cade, that's been a thing that as long as those guys are on the court together the rest of the season, you'll get a big enough sample size to see these guys play together. That's all you can ask, and then the rest will take care of itself. But yes, if I had to give you an answer, I think they can work. We need more time to really see it.
Yeah. And for me, Sean, I just think that these guys are too talented to not make it work, right? I mean, they're both of their ceilings are just so high and they're selfless guys, right? They don't have that ego. They want to win basketball, and they have a great coach, I don't have a lot of fears of them not working out. But I guess that brings you to the question of, okay, well, we have how many games left? 30 maybe-ish, 31. What do I want to see for the rest of the season? Jeff really hit it with on the court. Obviously, that's a big one. But just more production on the offensive end. We know that they can score, but I want to see more of it. I want to see every team that they're going to play here on out has a star, right? I want them to compete against that star and his co-stars, and I want them to put up 20 plus points, 5 plus assists on a consistent basis. And I know they will because they have. But to keep seeing that when the consistency every game. Oh, Tatum this game. Oh, Devin Booker this game. Oh, Giannis this game. That consistency, being able to score against those guys.
Yeah, 100%. And, talking, just kind of putting a bow a little bit, just on trade deadline and just kind of transitioning into, like what this sets them up to do, like in the summer. I think the biggest thing is they made significant moves without giving up significant flexibility. Like if anything, they almost added to their cap space that they're going to have this summer. And every player that they added is either a restricted free agent with an expiring contract or a player with a team option or just straight up an expiring contract. So if guys come in and play well, like let's say, I know Troy Brown Jr. was a guy that was, I don't know like where they view him in the future, but like if he comes in, proves his worth and proves to be like a solid backup wing, they have the flexibility and the option to go and sign him. But on top of that, it still looks like, they're positioned to be able to go and get, say, a Tobias Harris this summer, or still like get that type of free agent. Now seeing the roster as constructed now, which again, it's crazy, like quite literally 8 new players. Like half of the roster has been overhauled within the last week. So given the way the roster's now constructed going into the summer, would you be more intrigued to see a Tobias Harris thrown into that mix than, say, if it was with Bojan or, with Burks, or the way the roster was previously constructed? Do you like that more on paper?
I do. I do. Absolutely. I mean, just a Tobias Harris can play competitive winning basketball, and not to say Burks and Bojan couldn't, but they're just different players. I mean, they're scoring specialists, right? They're not meant, I don't know, to be a second, third option on a contending team. They're supposed to be that maybe fifth, right? Fourth or 5th option. And you look at even how deep New York is right now with Brunson and Dante DiVincenzo. And even Josh Hart's been playing fine, and even Precious is playing fine. And then to throw them on there, yeah, you don't need them to be scoring 20-plus points tonight. You need to be scoring or at least shooting maybe above 45% from the field. And you need them to that high volume crunch time basketball. So I guess where I'm getting at with the Pistons now is, it has some flexibility to put in with a Tobias Harris who gives you, good basketball on both sides of the court, but also I think Tobias Harris is a selfless basketball player. I don't not to say that Bojan's selfish, but it's just that I just see a guy like Tobias helping, being on the same court as an Ivy or Cade and helping their development as well, because you have
more of a complementary player.
Yeah, a complementary. That's a good way of putting it. Spot up 3-point shooter, will hold the whole team accountable on the defensive end. Crash the boards, the complementary. You nailed the word right there, and Tobias gives you that. That I don't know if Bojan or Burks did to that volume.
I think, and I also think too, Jeff. Just add on to that. I think there's far more potential now with the way that they've changed around the roster. If Duren develops defensively the way that the way that we think he can, if they go out and use their first round pick to either draft like a wing or potentially trade that to get another piece, and then you bring in Tobias Harris, I think there's I don't think the path to Detroit becoming a top 10 defense in the NBA is nearly as big of a leap as it once was. I think if this team is currently constructed, I think a realistic goal for them is, can they get out of the bottom depths defensively? Can they get up to 20th in the league down the stretch? Can they get up to 15th in the league? Because I think another reason why you make all these moves and you shift the roster the way that you do is saying, hey, we need to establish our identity, which was always going to be defensively, right? Like this team didn't have problems with scoring points, but they couldn't stop a nosebleed. They couldn't play dead in a Western. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, like a big problem with this team is you're not forcing turnovers and you're turning the ball over, which they've gotten better at. So for them, at least at the wing spot, like we signed Tobias, just off the court, good dude. He's a guy that you want in the locker room, and he's a true third option. Like, how people use that, like this guy's a third, like he was on a championship, whatever you think of Philly, contender as a third option, playing in big playoff games. And he's a damn near 50, 40, 90 guy. So for his fit on the court, it's great. Like he's walking into a situation where you don't have to worry about him. He knows his role. He excels at it. And I think he'd be a good voice in the locker room, right? He's played in some big games. He's obviously, his wife's from Detroit, I believe it is. And he's played here. So there's comfortability there. But yeah, I mean, he's he's the type of forward. I wish you could like duplicate him and bring two. But he's the exact guy that you need alongside the guys you have currently. Like he provides spacing, he provides versatility. I know he's he's a little above 30, but still he's a capable defender.
Yep.
I love Tobias Harris. I don't think it'd be super. I don't think it'd be expensive to where you'd be shocked at the price you sign him for. I mean, you're gonna have to sign him for more. Obviously, it's not a free agency destination, so you're gonna have to give him a little bit of that Detroit tax from how many games you won last 4 years. But regardless, I would be open to it. I love it. I love it, Tobias Harris. It's not a splash, but again, guys, like we talk about this ad nauseum. You're not banking on free agency to fix your problems. You're banking on your core. And how do you do that? You complement those guys. And I think Tobias Harris is a perfect complement. I do.
Exactly. And I mean, the other thing as well is even with all the roster changes, it's the young core that's led the Pistons to this winning streak.
Right.
Like the reason like the play of late hasn't necessarily been and that's hasn't been the case for a lot of games this year. There would be times where, Bojan and Burks would have to kind of bail out the young guys and put the Pistons in a position to compete. Whereas of late, it's been nothing but Cade, it's been nothing but Ivy. And I think another thing that you're seeing as well, I think, no longer having, Isaiah Livers in the rotation, I think you're starting to see a lot more of Asar in the lineup and just him beginning to excel on both sides of the court more. Now, granted, the one thing with Asar, the thing that you can't really avoid, he's a bad jump shooter. It's like it is a bad shot. And it doesn't even look like the form is broken, but there just isn't much like confidence in his release. There's not necessarily a lot of consistency in the release because there's a lot of points where like the ball can just end up short or wide right or go, like out of bounds, and so there's still obviously like a lot of areas, like for him to like grow and improve, but like, man, there's just still so many other things that Asar shows that's impressive. And the thing that like differentiates between, to me, between him and like say like a Killian, when like because that's gonna be the natural comparison with the jump shot right now. The difference between him and Killian is this is a guy who works his butt off each and every day in the gym. And not that Killian doesn't, but the other thing as well is I think Asar just has it in between the ears. He has that killer instinct, and I don't think Killian ever did. So what have been your guys' thoughts of Asar's rookie year as it's gone on? And is your confidence level, do you still have all your stock in Asar Thompson Island?
Well, I think his quickness is something that we saw in the draft that I think we're seeing a lot this year of his basketball IQ, of how easily he's able to cut to the rim and get a lot of those open looks under the basket. That we knew that with guys like an Ivy and a Cade could be complementary to him, right? Of finding that wide open guy. I mean, I think he's had a lot of up and downs too this season. He's had stints where he's been playing amazing basketball with, given 10 points a night. He's had a couple games, I think, with 8 rebounds and 8 assists. I mean, playing really good basketball. But you can tell he's a rookie at times too. Absolutely. I mean, that's the obvious. And the jump shot you brought up, that's even a bigger obvious with Asar Thompson. I mean, even his 3-point percentage is just so low, and free throws too. But, and it's something I said even this summer, is that I do believe shooting is one of the easier things to fix in the NBA because you have guys who coaches, right, who are specialists in form. And shooting is also fun. It's a fun activity. It's fun to lock yourself in a gym in the summer and just put up 500 shots. So I think that's an area where if he has the right coaches, the right confidence, the right voices in his ear, he can easily improve upon. But to answer your question again, how do I think of Asar Thompson's rookie year? Yeah, I would give it a B or a B plus because of how well he's been playing on both sides of the court. The consistency may not be there, but year one, after even he didn't take the traditional route with college and he did the G League Ignite, I think he's playing all right. And there's even quite a bit of times this year he's looked better than his brother, and that was something I was hoping for this year to see. And now his brother's playing pretty good right now this past couple of weeks. But
his brother can ball too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That wasn't an undermining him. But yeah, so the rest of the season, I want to see time on the court. I want to see see him gel be on the court with a guy like Cade and a guy like Ivey. And I see that Monty has patience with him, and that's encouraging for me. So to have that translate into next season, that patience, that confidence, that all-around game developing shot, yeah, there's a lot there. But I have confidence in the kid.
Oh, dude, I love Asar Thompson. I think for his ceiling too, another player that high ceiling because let's just say, you know what, take away the ceiling. Let's just say, and Spiro brought this up and he thought about it. And I'm like, it's a good point. Like if you look at Asar Thompson, let's just say he doesn't hit whatever ceiling we think he hits. Let's just say he turns into a more athletic Draymond Green, for example. Like, yeah, I'll take that. It's a Hall of Famer right there. Multiple time defensive player of the year. So that's if he can't develop a consistent shot. To George's point, it can be done. And it's not like his form is like, you look at his form, you're like, no way. Like Draymond always had a funky jumper. You watch Draymond, you're like, it's always been awkward for him. It looks like Asar can put it together. Like it looks, and you brought this up, Sean, too. Like the state, like him growing up to go to overtime elite, he's always played on the biggest stages. Like growing up, he was one of the best players in the country in high school. He goes to overtime elite. Like there is a adjustment period to now going from overtime to now the NBA. So I don't think you'll fully see what Asar Thompson is till year 2, year 3. You'll start to see that jump, and he works like you nailed it. He does work his ass off, and I know like it's thrown around, but he's truly a gym rat, and he's a high IQ basketball player.
Different.
Like, so you can't count him out in terms of ceiling. So I think he's only going to get better. He's going to be a stud.
I know really. I bring this anecdote up in nauseum, but like when talking about a player's work ethic, I have to mention it. It's the thing that will always stick with me in the moment I knew exactly who Asar Thompson was when I went to the open practice, when I was in the media room and someone asked him, Asar, what's been the biggest adjustment for you in the NBA thus far off the court? And his response was, off the court? Like he couldn't compute the thought of not being in a gym. Like he's like, wait, I have a life outside of this? Like the dude is like nothing but basketball at all times.
That's what we need. That's what we need.
And so again, you know, like I know like after his rookie year, we talked about like not letting Killian going back to France and like just locking him, you know, like in the gym. You're not gonna have to worry about that with Asar. And I think ultimately, you know, just get him again, like pretty much like Troy said, get him with a shooting coach, you know, have him shoot like, you know, like 1,000 threes, you know, like a couple times a day. I have no doubt that, you know, over the next couple of years, he could become a serviceable 3-point shooter. And again, like his ceiling is like a Paul George type, even if he's just an Andre Iguodala or like you said, like a Draymond Green type, like there is still an all NBA defender in there, like literally within the next couple of years.
Yeah,
so,
and to pair that with Duren too, and we haven't even touched on his defensive presence this season. And
that was literally where I was going next, Troy. You read my mind. Jalen Duren. The thing that's, you know, like I think we've talked a little bit about how, you know, like just his offensive game. I know we talked like last week about like his footwork and, you know, just like, you know, scoring wise, just how he's starting to take a lot of leaps. But on top of that, like I think the other thing as well is like that's kind of underrated is Jalen Duren's had a lot of games where he's having like high assist totals. And, you know, it's like, it's been pretty clear, like over like the last like few weeks, like they've just been saying, hey, like since he's gotten back from injury, like, hey, we want you to be more integral in running the offense or more integral in the offense. And just to see the things that Jalen Duren like can already do at 20 years old. And again, like as a big man, you know, like not saying he's going to be a Nikola Jokic or any stretch of the imagination, but the fact that he's already implementing this stuff in his game, just the sophomore leaps of both Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, these guys are both going to be so good. It's kind of scary.
Another high ceiling guy. Like that's kind of been the theme all show. Like you talked about Ivy, Asar, Duren, especially for him, like he's a center, but you know, 2024 NBA, like it's positionless. So for Jalen Duren, underrated passer.
Yep.
I think the shot too is the most interesting part because That's something that I think in years' time where you'll start to see, Jalen Duren be more and more comfortable stepping. I don't know about outside. We'll see in the future, but just in terms of the mid range, and there's more to his game offensively, and then defensively, he's a beast. I mean, guys, you watch the difference between him on the court versus when he goes to the bench. The Pistons hurt. Like they hurt without his presence. So that speaks to just how important he is defensively. And then we brought up Asar and how he's a great defender. Like this team does have a lot of untapped defensive potential. I know they're awful this year, but if you just look at it in terms of potential, there's a lot there. Like Jalen Duren can be the anchor of a team making playoff runs. Like that's who he is. And you look around in the East too, and who you're going to be facing up, you're going to need them. Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like there's more, and there's guys out there, Bam Adebayo in Miami. So for him, it's important to have a guy like him. And man, I'm excited to see his development because there's a lot more tools offensively that he can add. And he's gonna be another one of those top centers in the East or just in the NBA in general.
100%. And again, when you have a young center, one of the things that they do defensively is, or like offensively, I mean, is they really try to attack, that center because, it's easy to get him to draw fouls. They generally, are more prone to make mistakes because of the less experience. But as time goes on and he only gets better on that side of the ball, I mean, he's already straight up one of the best rebounders right now. He's legitimately a mid-range jumper and consistent defense away from being an all-star. Like right now, straight up. If he goes in the summer and adds those elements to his game this summer, he could be an all-star center next year for the East.
I mean, Bam Adebayo made an all-star team, and I like Bam, but like I think Jalen Duren could be what Bam's doing, like a 20-point per game, got 20 and 12. And Bam's not this 3-point shooter. Like I think he's a great passer, and I think that those offensive tools that Bam has, I think Jalen Duren can have, and of course mess around, make an all-star team. I think he has that potential.
Oh, 1000%. And again, it's one of those things where you really it's, I know potential has just been a topic of conversation for Pistons fans for quite a long time, and it's always about, all right, well, we want to see that turn into wins, we want to see that potential turn into production, and we've been able to see that more over the last couple of weeks than we have all season. So it definitely looks like we're heading in the right direction. But again, it's like, I don't look at this roster and go, man, there's like, normally if a team loses 28 games in a row, it's like, man, there's no hope. There's, this is a unsalvageable situation. I still firmly believe there's multiple players on this team with all-star upside and all NBA upside. So definitely good to see that they're heading in the right direction. Good to see Monty's improving with the coaching aspects as well. Real quick before we end the pod, though, did want to talk a little bit about what your guys' thoughts were of the Knicks now that they went and got Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic. As Pistons fans, I don't think it's as much of a steal as everyone was saying it was, just because it's like, oh, this is the best, like this is the best trade all season. And I'm like, I mean, they got better. They got like solid depth. Don't get me wrong, but like, I watched these guys all year. They can hit shots. I hope you're not relying on them defensively, Thibodeau. But I mean, you look at like 1 through 10, who the Knicks have now. You like when OG Anunoby gets healthy, with how awesome Jalen Brunson's been. Is it ridiculous to say that the Knicks can make the conference finals? Perhaps the finals?
It's still only ridiculous because of Boston and Milwaukee, but we know that upsets happen every year, right? So that makes it a little less ridiculous, but I still have to see it to believe it with that franchise.
Yeah, no, totally understandable.
Yeah, I think that would be it. Like if you look at this roster and how it's constructed, and let's just say they were, some other franchise. I mean, name one besides the Knicks. There's that Knicks part of it where you're like, Knicks may, especially with Boston and Milwaukee, more proven guys. I get that. They hired Doc Rivers, so anything's open, I guess, for the Bucks, especially if they're up 3-1. But that's a whole nother topic.
He's already blown multiple 20-point leads, by the way.
So maybe there's hope for Knicks fans. But no, I like this Knicks roster. I mean, you get rid of RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, you You bring in OG Anunoby, who's, one of the, I think, best, brightest young wings in the league. And then you go get some older guys, more experienced guys that provide more offensively. Like, what they're putting together is intriguing. I don't know if I'll ever trust fully. I trust Jalen Brunson. By the way, give you flowers on that, Sean. But I will never trust Julius Randle. I don't know if I trust him. But I love Brunson, and I love a lot of the pieces. Tom Thibodeau, we know what he is as a head coach. You know what he's going to bring. There's still questions. I don't know about finals, but I think if you tell me, Sean, if we fast forward this until June and you tell me or late May and all, and when the playoffs start, and you tell me they're a team that's making an Eastern Conference Finals run, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, you look at the standings right now, and like the Eastern Conference, in a lot of ways, like it looks very much open, especially kind of like that middle of the pack. I think it's pretty clear Boston as of right now is probably still the best team in the East, but Cleveland's right there. The Knicks are right there. Milwaukee is very much still a threat. If Joel Embiid, comes back, the Sixers are definitely not a team to trifle with. I wouldn't want to face Indiana in the first round.
No.
I definitely wouldn't want Orlando or Miami. So you look at like literally all 8 teams in the playoffs, like in the playoff picture right now, like 1 to 8 in the East is legitimately dangerous. And then you have Chicago and Atlanta and 9 and 10. That's where you see a pretty noticeable drop off. But like the point being, like this is a pretty deep group, and to say that the Knicks are very much like among the top just says a lot about how much they've done. And the scary thing is the Knicks still have a treasure trove of picks and things to trade for when the next star does become available. So we might see the Knicks contend before they even actually go all in. So I never thought I'd see the Knicks be run well in my lifetime. I think we're in the Matrix officially. I think someone took the blue pill. So no clue what's happening anymore. But you know what? Here we are. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, Lions are making NFC championship runs. The Knicks are a relevant playoff team that could make the finals. I mean, it is a interesting era in sports.
The Minnesota Timberwolves are the number 1 team in the West, followed by the LA Clippers. Just things we normally say.
Yeah, that is true. Man.
Yeah, everything flipped on its head this year. Another team, a team that wasn't flipped on its head. Talk about a good segue right there. The Los Angeles Lakers. Gotta talk about the Lakers at least once when you're doing a trade deadline pod. And going into the deadline, we expected the Lakers to do something just because there's always like that. There's the passive aggression from LeBron. He tweets the emoji of the hourglass. He's asked by media if he thinks they have enough, and he's like, I'm just a player. I don't delve in these decisions, when he clearly delves in these decisions in the past.
Absolutely.
And the reason why he claims he doesn't is because of how bad he's been in delving in those decisions. But the Lakers did not make a single move. And the reason why is because they seemingly believe that, or reportedly believe that anything they can get in the trade market is not better than what D'Angelo Russell's looking like right now. And granted, since the trade rumors have been brought up, D'Angelo Russell's probably like playing some of the best basketball of his career. He is looking pretty solid. But the other reason is because the most wanted asset from the Lakers was Austin Reeves. And I do think it would have been pretty short-sighted for the Lakers to trade Reeves and to try and go out and get another star. And guys, I kind of said, I made the bold prediction that this trade deadline could be the beginning of the end of the LeBron James era with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think them standing pat and not doing anything very well could signify that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the fact that the Lakers looked at LeBron, who was probably saying, we need to make a move, we need to get better. The fact that they stood pat and say, no, we're fine. It says a lot that we're at a point in LeBron James's career where the team that he's on is willing to tell him no.
Well, the Lakers' only chance, and you know what? If I'm Rob Pelinka and I'm the Bus family, I'm thinking to myself, well, we better hope Bronny falls in the second round, and then we'll draft him, and then and then LeBron has no choice but to stay here. But other than that, you know how LeBron operates. Like he's within a situation until he no longer feels like it could benefit him, right? Like the Lakers and where they're heading, it doesn't feel like it's a championship contender. I know they made a run last year. We had this discussion. It was a fluke. LeBron's not getting any younger, and you see the reports more and more about Bronny.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to read that after you finish your point.
No, go ahead, because this is kind of where it gets interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because per Mark Stein, there are apparently 2 mystery teams that believe LeBron James would consider signing with them if they were to draft Bronny James. And here's the quote, just for context. Quote, I know of at least 2 teams on the NBA map that believe LeBron James would consider signing with them at far less than $51.4 million if Bronny James is on the roster. There might be more. So the fact that there are teams that legitimately believe that they have like an inside chance at going and getting LeBron, we just talked about a team a second ago that might be interested. The New York Knicks. What about the Philadelphia 76ers? They have cap space opening up this offseason. When you look at the landscape of the league, there's options. There's teams, like good teams, that are going to have cap space, that are going to have assets. I legitimately think we're seeing the beginning of the end of the LeBron James Lakers era, unless they do something drastic in the offseason. But the only drastic move they have to play is trading Anthony Davis. And I mean, if you're the Lakers, do you do that? If that's, probably who you're going to have to build around going forward?
No, you're screwed. Because the peak Anthony Davis is not what you're trading. You're trading away an asset in which teams would know, like, we can't count on this guy. Number one, to lead our franchise, but number 2, be available. Yep. So you're not getting full value for him. So that's already bad. But you have Data Davis, and you have a snitch. That's who you have as your running mates for LeBron. That's a problem. So yeah, I think if you're the Lakers, and if you're specifically LeBron, you're getting the hell out of there. And I don't know. I'm curious. I would love to know. I would love to be a fly on the wall. For the report to know who the 2 teams are. Like what a hell of a thing to do as a dad, to give your stamp. Like, your son's getting drafted. Like, you just guaranteed it. It might be a little nepotism. I don't know how that works, because there's someone
Bronny can play.
He can.
It would not be as much of a conversation if Bronny wasn't an actual NBA type player, but it definitely raises his value significantly.
Hey, I don't hate it. I love it. Hey, if I was Bronny, I'd be like, hell yeah, you better say you're gonna come play with me. I gotta get drafted. Which he would have, but higher. Maybe he gets drafted higher. Maybe a team takes him just because they know LeBron's coming. Who knows?
And I legitimately think that there are going to be teams who might take that risk. And listen, I don't think it's going to be the Charlotte Hornets. I don't think it's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Even as good as they are, I just don't see LeBron moving to Oklahoma City. To me, it would have to be a team like a Philadelphia or a team like a New York, where, it's still a big market. It's a historic franchise. They're in the inside position to contend, so to speak. And another thing about all those situations, LeBron wouldn't have to be that number 1 guy like he complains about having to be in LA. Like how he wanted to take the back seat to Joel Embiid, or Anthony Davis, so to speak. If he's in Philly, he can definitely take the back seat to Joel Embiid. Right. If he's in New York,
does he really mean that? Does he really mean that? Will he actually do that role? I don't know.
Well,
I really don't know.
I think at 39, when you're about to potentially, when you're already like at the most minutes played in NBA history, you're trying to go get another wing or another ring. I legitimately think like it's LeBron's best option. I think at this point he knows where he stands all time and he probably knows his limitations better than anybody. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine if the opportunity's there that that he would probably rather do that than waste away the rest of his career with LA, because remember, at this point, he's chasing the GOAT conversation. He's chasing Michael. And the only thing that's like going to get there, like get him over the hump in a lot of people's eyes, whether this is true or not, we're not having that conversation. It's if he matches him in rings, right? So I think if he were to have the opportunity to say do that, still get to play with his son, I think it's a lot more open now than it was at the beginning of the season. And especially if the Lakers, don't finish that well, have like a first round exit, and then like this summer aren't really super active and trying to make a lot of moves. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like the Lakers, they're always a prominent story in the league, but now more than ever, that's going to be an interesting situation to watch. But boys, it's always fun to do the pod with you. Thanks so much for being here and doing this. And thank you to those at home for listening and joining us here each and every week on From Half Court, where we bring content talking all things NBA and Pistons basketball. Again, be sure to follow my guys on X at Jeff Iafrady and Troy Sergey 44. Check out Crunch Time with Jeff Iafrady Monday through Friday and subscribe to their YouTube channel. There's a link in the description below. And thank you for listening. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you're subscribed.